Hey, does anyone remember that montage in Spider-Man 2 where Peter Parker decides to give up being a superhero and everything finally starts to go his way? He makes the impossible decision to betray Uncle Ben's iconic words about power and responsibility and slinks out into the dead of night. With this big orchestral score playing, Peter dramatically dumps his Spidey costume over here, only for the camera to pan out and reveal that the actual trash can's like over here, miles away. But that's okay because it looks like the comic book, and that's cool. That sounds like I was making fun of it. It is genuinely cool. I like it. This powerful moment of transformation in the film then fades into a sun-drenched day accompanied by upbeat ukulele music as Peter embraces a more mundane, tranquil life as an ordinary college student, liberated from the weight of his dual identity that had ruined his personal life. Nuances for cowards. This symbolism is potent. A life as Spider-Man is isolating, messy, and gloomy. But life as normal old Pete, that's simple and light. You've got time to eat a hot dog that looks like it's 100% bun. Did they do a Texas switch on this hot dog? Right, like I see the dog here, and then he dips it down out of frame, comes back up, and it's just, I mean, that's just bread, right? Where'd the dog go, Toby? That's not the part that I wanted to talk about, though. Throughout this sequence, the entirety of this song plays in the foreground.
Raindrops are falling on my head.
That's probably all of the actual song that I can play for copyright reasons, but I did find some MIDI files online that I put into GarageBand. It's almost. Now, this song choice for the montage was a controversial decision by the filmmakers, according to the Spider-Man 2 audio commentary.
I mean, this was one of the more debated scenes in post-productions, and quite honestly, one of the most debated, if not the most debated music cue in post-production. Yeah. Because I think all of us, when we first saw it, really responded to it, and it's just set so perfectly the tone for Peter's life at this point. But then you do start to second guess yourself in a positive way. Is this song and this moment the best for the movie? And at the end of the day, we thought it was, and it really does work and set up Peter's life.
And I would say the most iconic moment for me is right at the end here, where there's this tiny little freeze frame for a beat as the song plays out before Toby keeps walking.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the audience erupted with laughter when I watched that with them. Erupted with laughter.
Great.
That freeze frame, just the nerdiest kid in the world.
We'll return to that commentary in a bit, but this freeze frame has stuck with me forever. It's such an interesting choice. The modern MCU could never. And I'm going to talk about this montage, and maybe even this exact still, for like a half hour, because I learned something last week that has fully changed this montage in Spider-Man 2 from a, goofy, lighthearted comedy moment to something deeply poignant and sad. And I discovered it by complete accident. I should rewind for a second. How are you doing, you wonderful nerds? Scott here, and a few weeks ago, I was in the car with my wife, Emily, and I was being a little passenger princess, as I like to do, and we listened to the classical music station because we're very cool, and they were doing a series of songs from Westerns. Up next, they announced, was a chart-topping hit from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, a film that I knew of, but I hadn't seen before. And I heard a familiar song come on. I know this song. Now, maybe this was only a revelation to me because I haven't watched many classic westerns. My time is mostly filled with cartoons from the 70s about teens solving crimes with their dog. Like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids.
Traveling around all over the world, solving every mystery.
Hell yeah. Oh, what a show. I almost forgot to mention it, even though I did buy the DVD specifically for this video. Let's see what they're up to.
You are to contact my superior, J8, at the city market at noon. She will inform you of the latest plans to rescue Dr. Schmidt.
Your boss is a girl? Chalk up one more for Women's Lib.
Cool. Somehow, despite listening to the classical music station, I'm still less cultured than most yogurts. I had no idea this lighthearted tune about not letting your worries get you down was created specifically for an incredibly depressing film about how the endless march of time will one day render us all obsolete despite our sad, desperate attempts to stay relevant. But the movie has explosions and an anti-establishment polycule, so There's something for everyone to enjoy. Learning this, I had to sit down and watch Butch Cassidy to see if there were any connections between the two films. I'd never heard anyone talk about it before, so I thought maybe I was onto something. Then I listened to the audio commentary again with director Sam Raimi.
I think you should probably mention the song, Sam.
Well, Bob Moratsky chose this song and put it up against the montage for me, and I just thought it was a great choice. And not because of the reference to the great Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, that great classic.
Yeah, seems like it was never an intended homage in his eyes, so that was pretty disheartening to learn after I already wrote, filmed, and edited this entire video, believing I was unlocking some hidden meaning in Spider-Man 2. Then I remembered that authorial intent means nothing to me. The curtains aren't just blue, and even if Sam Raimi didn't intend for there to be parallels between Peter Parker and Butch Cassidy, there definitely are, and I can prove it. Directed by George Roy Hill, the basic plot of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is that Butch and his crew of well-known outlaws rob a train twice. But on the second attempt, they're ambushed and given chase by the law, who kill most of Cassidy's crew.
Whatever they're selling, I don't want it.
Very quickly, it becomes just the affable Butch and the sharpshooting Sundance Kid, whose chemistry would best be described by historians as good friends. I'm making a bit of a joke here, but also it's important, because a big reason why this film stands out is Paul Newman and Robert Redford's witty, charismatic banter.
The next time I say let's go someplace like Bolivia, let's go someplace like Bolivia. Next time.
They aren't the cool, stoic, brick wall protagonists of other westerns of the time. They're charming goofballs who neg each other, and I just want them to smooch a little. But there's no time for romance because they're still being pursued. Seriously, like a half hour of this film, nearly a third of its runtime, is dedicated to Butch and Sundance's desperate attempt to evade a posse that's hunting them down with unwavering determination. The exercise bike will make sense in a few minutes, so just hang in there. The duo starts piecing together that this posse is made up of elite trackers and sheriffs from across the entire country whose sole job is to find and kill these two specific outlaws. Now, what I love here is that we, as an audience, only ever glimpse this posse from the same distance that Butch and Sundance do. We never get to know them as actual characters, right? Only as a faceless, unyielding force that Butch and Sundance will never be able to outrun. Until they do! Oh, I'm so out of breath. This was a bad idea. They head to Bolivia with their shared girlfriend Etta, and the three of them pick up where they left off, robbing banks, because it's the only thing they know. And yeah, I said the three of them because even Etta gets in on the crime.
Chalk up one more for Women's Lib.
She eventually leaves though, and Butch and Sundance try for a bit to go straight, but we both know these two are anything but straight. Despite their short-lived efforts to leave crime behind, trouble inevitably finds them, and their notoriety soars. The climax unfolds in a final tense showdown. Butch and Sundance, severely wounded, find themselves surrounded by the entire Bolivian army. With unwavering resolve, they gather their remaining strength, charge out, guns blazing, and nothing. That's it. The film ends on a freeze frame as the camera slowly pans out. We only hear the roar of gunfire that they couldn't possibly survive. A freeze frame, you say? That sounds familiar, and we'll get to it. But remember this song, right? That's what started me down this rabbit hole. As I said, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, we're just going to shorten it to Raindrops for the rest of this video, was written specifically for this film by Burt, Bacharach, and Hal David, and performed by B.J. Thomas. The scene it's used in, however, seems somewhat out of place in the film. It's near the start. Butch buys a bicycle, a brand new invention for this time period, and takes Etta for a ride while doing a bunch of goofy stunts. People say that I'm like Butch Cassidy because I also put the "buy" in bicycle. And even though I'm definitely not out of shape and could keep pedaling this bike forever, I would like to pause here to remind you once again that this film is a Western, obviously, yet it's breaking nearly all conventions of the genre at that point. You're gonna spin an optimistic pop song while the protagonist plays Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX for the PS1? Are you sure you don't want to play a serious country song while the protagonist does something almost certainly problematic? I can't when Em and I were listening to the radio, this song cut through all of the other Western film scores composed of traditional orchestral music that typically matched the, rugged, dramatic landscapes or promising Wild West adventure typical of the genre. It did not feel like it belonged. This is the part of the video where I was going to play a couple of Western scores to sort of compare and contrast, but I got hit with like 5 copyright claims, so I had to edit it out, unfortunately, but the full version of this video is up on my Patreon for people who support me there. Thank you. And it's precisely because of how different this song choice was for the Western genre that the use of the tune was a hotly debated decision of the production of the film, one that ultimately proved to be the right call. Where have I heard that before?
I mean, this was one of the more debated scenes in post-productions, and quite honestly, one of the most debated, if not the most debated music cue in post-production.
Yeah. But I think this song is genius. If you've never paid attention to the lyrics before, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head describes the singer's reaction to difficulties in their life, represented metaphorically by raindrops falling on his head. That's the title. Despite these troubles, however, the singer remains undeterred and upbeat. He acknowledges that these difficulties exist, sure, but he chooses not to let them affect his current mood or overall outlook on life. Instead, he knows that worrying won't change anything, and opts for a almost sickly sweet positive attitude. Although that could just be my depression talking, he's probably just normal. The song ends with the assurance that the sun will eventually shine and everything will be all right. Out of context, this is a nice, bright, bubbly song. But remember, it was specifically written for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, a movie that famously ends the opposite way the song does. As it turns out, everything won't be all right. As I said, the use of this song in Butch Cassidy was polarizing. Sundance himself, Robert Redford, hated this song initially, saying it didn't make any sense in the film. He's since come around on it, admitting he was clearly wrong, but was he though? Right, I feel like at least a part of the point of this song and the goofy montage is specifically that it's jarring and doesn't fit. Because that's the central struggle of the characters themselves. The bicycle is outright referred to as the future. It's a metallic harbinger of change representing unstoppable progress in an ever-changing world, threatening the status quo of the Wild West. And also, my glutes and thighs, I'm not on the bike anymore. This scene is literally how the bicycle is introduced in the film.
Boys and girls, friends and enemies, meet the future! Future what? The future mode of transportation for this weary Western world.
This symbolism foreshadows what people think of Butch and Sundance as outlaws when they're later on the run from the posse who represent this very inevitability of time.
It's over! Don't you get that? Your times is over, and you're gonna die bloody, and all you can do is choose where.
Butch and Sundance are unable to adjust to this changing world, desperately clinging onto the only life that they know, a life that will eventually get them killed. Realizing this, Butch has a change of heart about the bicycle that he was having so much fun with earlier in the film.
Future's all yours, you lousy bicycle!
Not for nothing, but the montage in Spider-Man 2 features a moment where Peter is repairing his bike only for it to also go badly. Is this a purposeful homage to Butch Cassidy, wherein he ends his parade of fun bike tricks when he crashes into an angry steer? It is now, because I say so. But to be fair, I think it's at least a little valuable to hear why specifically Sam Raimi liked this song so much. Let's hear his reasoning.
Well, Bob Moratsky chose this song and put it up against the montage for me, and I just thought it was a great choice. It has such a great simplicity and honesty and an optimism to it.
Now, here's the thing. I do think that Raimi is onto something even if he didn't know it, or to be more charitable, even if he didn't express it verbatim at the time. I feel like I'm being needlessly harsh towards a director whose work I generally enjoy. Let's take what he just said about the song.
It has such a great simplicity and honesty and an optimism to it.
How true is that? Well, whenever I make videos about music, I always run my thoughts by my friend Rod Kim, who's a professional songwriter.
Hey, does anybody remember that time Green Day accidentally wrote the graduation anthem of the late 90s?
And he pointed out that while this song sounds like a saccharine bubblegum pop tune, some phrases end on minor chords, adding a melancholic tone to the words that Thomas is singing, as if we're not supposed to take his sunshiny attitude at face value. Is he deluding himself? And in turn, are our heroes deluding themselves? Both scenes use this song to create a stark contrast between the carefree moments depicted and the underlying tension of the characters' situations. In Butch Cassidy, the scene is a moment of calm and happiness amidst the otherwise tense narrative of two outlaws on the run, and is so jarring, it almost feels like a dream. In Spider-Man 2, it's Peter's turning point, representing his attempt to live without the burden of being a hero, embracing a life of simplicity and personal happiness. Even though we know that his journey is far from over. Although I will admit, when I was a kid, without any concept of movie runtimes or story structures, I genuinely believed that the film was going to end and there was just no more Spider-Man anymore. Sure, Doc Ock is still on the loose, but I don't know, my boy seems happy. It's an escape for both characters, but on opposite sides of the coin, right? Butch is seeking a reprieve from the consequences of his criminal actions, while Peter is seeking an escape from his duties as a superhero. But in both cases, it can't last forever. The rain won't ever stop. The world is changing far too fast for Butch to keep up, and Peter's attempt to abandon his responsibilities is doomed to fail. Maybe Butch and Peter know this. Or maybe they really are deluding themselves. Either way, I would like to stress how bold these choices are for characters in these film genres. Remember earlier when I said that Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid stands out amongst other westerns because of how different the titular characters are from other cowboys and outlaws of the genre? Like, comparatively, they are very soft boys. Butch has been a criminal for who knows how long, yet he's never killed anyone.
I never shot anybody before.
One hell of a time to tell me.
And the one time he does is the moment that seals their demise. Butch would much rather talk his way through a robbery while actively caring for the people that he's robbing, ensuring that they don't get hurt.
Hey, Woodcock. Hey, Woodcock, you all right?
Sundance is definitely the tougher of the two, but even he has moments of quirky vulnerability.
All right? I'll jump first. Nope. Then you jump first.
No, I said.
What's the matter with you?
I can't swim!
Hell, even the thing that makes him cool, his incredible aim with a gun, is made to seem goofy because he's actually terrible at shooting unless he does over-the-top action hero movements.
I'm better when I move.
This is such a refreshing take on masculinity in the Western genre. It boldly asserts that you can be a tough, Wild West outlaw without bloodshed. It's not a weakness for a cool cowboy to be kind and compassionate and vulnerable. That is the cool cowboy stuff.
Chalk up one more for
Similarly, in Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker embodies the modern superhero, one who is deeply flawed and burdened by the weight of his responsibilities. A co-creator of the character Stan Lee always talked about how Spider-Man stood out among the traditional crusading Golden Age superheroes of the past because he had real-life problems that would often interfere with Spider-Manning. I must have made a dozen videos about this by now, but even other Silver Age Marvel superheroes like the Fantastic Four would get powers and immediately decide that they must use their powers to protect humanity. Spidey just wanted some fat stacks. Even after Uncle Ben tripped and died or whatever happened, and Peter actually dedicated his life to fighting crime, he still struggled with his dual identity and the personal sacrifices the hero life demands. Spider-Man was complex, dude. It feels par for the course nowadays, but it was extremely novel and interesting, and the film was right to tap into it. Even if the montage was mostly played for laughs.
The audience erupted with laughter when I watched that with them. Erupted with laughter.
Great.
That freeze frame.
Oh, fuck the freeze frame! As I mentioned, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid concludes with the titular duo making a final, desperate charge against the Bolivian army who has completely surrounded them. As they run out of the building, guns blazing, the film halts abruptly, capturing Butch and Sundance in a tableau of defiance. Their figures suspended in time as sepia tones wash over them like a nostalgic dream preserved in amber. The sound of gunfire continues as the audience is left to imagine the inevitable outcome. Butch and Sundance's tragic end. The freeze frame preserves the mythic status of the characters, transforming them into legends, eternally defiant. By freezing them in a moment of action, the film avoids showing their death explicitly, allowing them to remain larger than life in the minds of the audience. You know, I've grown to like these boys. They've gotten out of other scrapes. Maybe they made it out of this one. I mean, they didn't, because it's based on real people who did die, but it's nice to think about. Now, back in Spider-Man 2, as Peter Parker momentarily embraces a normal life, he walks away with a smile. The film pauses on him mid-stride, and the audience laughs. But this is when it gets clever. See, they could have just left this frame hanging until the end of the song and fade out to black before moving on to the next scene, but they didn't. They unpause the action, and Peter continues to walk off frame. Why? I mean, this is literally the question that I started this video off with, and by now, hopefully, we have enough context to answer it. In Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the freeze frame declares that their story, while tragic, is unequivocally complete. The freeze frame serves only as one last desperate attempt to keep the character's fate from catching up to them. In contrast, the freeze frame in Spider-Man 2 tells a strikingly different tale. It's not a lingering final frame, but a momentary pause in an ongoing narrative. Peter Parker's journey is far from over. Despite his attempts, he has not truly escaped his responsibilities as Spider-Man, as much as he would like to believe that he has. As B.J. Thomas reaches the song's final lyric,
nothing's worrying,
he employs a fermata on worrying, which is a musical technique that allows the singer to hold the note as long as they deem appropriate, regardless of time signature or tempo. And yes, this is more of Rod's analysis. He's so good at this. Follow him on TikTok.
I feel like this would mess up most millennials.
Rod argues that this represents the singer seizing what little control he has over his circumstances, what with the raindrops and such. When he sings that final word, me, he stands alone, delivering an improvised extended melody. The band falls silent, as if watching intently to see what unfolds next. Because there is a next. There's always a next. This montage is a fleeting breath of normalcy in his life that cannot and will not last. The freeze frame acts as a potent visual punctuation, underlying the irony here. This reprieve is nice, sure, but it's only temporary. Life doesn't ever pause, not really.
And as I watch the sequence, I just feel, I know it's so sweet that this can't last, he's doomed. I know all throughout it that it's so bubbly and bubblegummy that Peter's living a dream that couldn't possibly continue.
Okay, maybe he does get it, even if it wasn't intentional. You know, I think it's neat how Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is a film about the past colliding with the future, because everyone always talks about how superhero movies are the modern equivalent of Westerns. And if that's the case, then using Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head in Spider-Man 2 masterfully echoes this exact connection, the past colliding with the future. And given how early Spider-Man 2 was in this modern superhero cinema landscape, I don't think it could be argued that that was intentional. But it also doesn't matter. Authorial intent is dead, my analysis is better, and Spider-Man 2 still kicks so much ass. Hell yeah.
Traveling around all over the world, solving every mystery, putting it together with the Sundance Kids. You're something else, Butch Cassidy.
Also, this is a small thing. Look how happy Peter Parker is when he's learning. I don't think I've ever been that giddy when reading complex textbooks. The only time I am that happy is when I'm using today's sponsor, Brilliant.org. You know, problem solving isn't just applicable to analyzing single scenes in 20-year-old movies, it's also applicable to fields like computer science, where you can dive deep into the worlds of algorithms and logic and more. And with Brilliant.org, learning is as engaging and rewarding as finally unmasking that menace Spider-Man. And much like Harry here, I too am a hands-on learner, which is great because Brilliant.org is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in math, data analysis, and programming. It's like a supercharged brain gym, you know? It's not just about stuffing your noggin with facts. It's about understanding how to think and how to solve problems in a meaningful way. So recently, I've been enjoying Brilliant.org's courses in scientific thinking. This course has walked me through the fundamental principles of scientific inquiry and critical thinking. And the interactive lessons help any learner develop a deeper understanding of how scientific thinking can be applied to everyday problems, enhancing your problem-solving skills in a fun and intuitive way. This could be you! So if you are ready to join the never-ending quest for knowledge, go to brilliant.org/nerdsync or click the link in the description. You can try everything Brilliant.org has to offer for free for a full 30 days. And if you're hooked like I am, you'll get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Once again, that's brilliant.org/nerdsync. Link is in the description. Thank you, goodbye.